Something about you seems different. I can't quite figure it out.
She got legs, you idiot.
1989's The Little Mermaid, a triumph in animation for Disney and for generations as a whole, finally gets this live-action remake. But in a sea, an ocean, if you will, of so many failed live-action Disney remakes, is this one of the few islands in the ocean? Or is this just one of the other shipwrecks you're going to find at the bottom of the sea? Well, I can tell you immediately that it is more than a failure. I tried something different there. I got to work it out. That's my first attempt at doing something like that, having a clip in front of there. I thought I did okay for my first time. Well, look, I thought about it. I should probably do a ranking of all the live-action Disney remakes I've seen over the years, because we have a lot of them now, and I think I've seen all but Pete's Dragon and Dumbo, I think. I think those are the only ones I have not seen. Oh, and Mulan. Okay, that's not entirely true. I have seen parts of Mulan. I can tell you I'm not a fan of it, but at some point I'll have to actually legitimately give them a watch to get a fair ranking. Unfortunately, they should be on Disney Plus, so I can, if I have some time, I can at least sit through them and watch. But yeah, no. So full disclosure, I like a lot of '90s kids. I grew up with The Little Mermaid. I watched The Little Mermaid, and I'm very much a fan of The Little Mermaid. But I also have a unique connection to this movie, just beyond the movie, similar to Aladdin. In chorus, we actually sang the entirety of the songs for The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, and separately Phantom of the Opera too. And I think there was one other one we sang all the songs for. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, I actually sang all the songs to this in middle school. So I have a strong connection kind of to this movie in many ways. And I saw it with my friend. She was very excited to see to see someone who looks like her on screen playing The Little Mermaid. I saw and she was just hoping for a good movie, and I was hoping for a good movie. We're just like, okay, all right, let's do this. And look, like I said, in an ocean where there are very few islands of good quality when it comes to these things, this I think is an island of quality. This is definitely one of the better ones they've put out in a long time. It's not perfect, but neither was the first one. And ironically, and I'll get to it in a little bit, most of the problems, if any of the problems I have, are just problems I had with the original too. So it works out. But look, I tell you the story, but you know the story already. And if you don't know the story, then, well, that's not my fault. Look, I won't go into any serious spoilers, but again, this is a remake of a Disney classic. And right from the get, I do want to address that. The fact is, this is a remake of the Disney's version of The Little Mermaid. So it's going to follow a lot of the same story points. It's going to, there's going to be points it has to hit. And I've seen, apparently, let me just double check the Rotten Tomatoes right here, because last I knew it was like at 70-something for its Rotten Tomatoes, which is a perfectly adequate score. But a lot of the people that were giving it negative reviews, or rotten, I guess we'd call it, were basically saying it doesn't change enough from the original. It is literally, it's 66. Ooh, that's less than good. Let me rephrase that. That's still positive, but that is not what I was expecting. But the thing is that when you're hearing that Disney is remaking one of their films, are you just expecting a one-to-one complete remake without touching on the things that are necessary? Or are you expecting a lot of what you originally got with some changes in there? And I heard some people say the changes they make aren't that impressive, or it's just doing the exact same thing over and over again. And I'm watching the film, and I got out of the film, and after talking to my friend for a little bit, we left, and I thought more, I'm like, did it? I mean, let me be very clear. The big story about you get the music. She wants to be where the people are. Her rescuing Eric, her going to Ursula, her being on land, the breaking up the engagement in this one, which actually that's one of the positives I'll bring up later on. Them getting together, the big climb. That's all going to be there, sure, but there's a lot of other things they changed up. For example, one of the big things that was changed in this movie was honestly, it was Eric and Ariel's relationship. Not to say it's not them. Not to say it's not a 3-day romance. That's a carryover complaint I've had since the original and most of these Disney films. But it's one of the really big things I loved about the relationship is that it actually felt like a relationship forming. It still kind of did in the original, but it's very rushed. And to be fair, they do still have the problem in this film of we actually don't know what the passage of time is. Ursula says 3 days. I mean, I'm just trying to think, because when does Ariel's day actually start when she turns into... thinking on it now, I guess the passage of time isn't as bad as I thought, thinking on it, because there's the day she becomes the mermaid. I'm guessing that's day 1. There's all the day she spends with Eric. I'm guessing that's day 2. And obviously there is the wedding day that she gets heartbroken over, and then smell fate. So, okay, I guess it works out. I don't know. For some reason, 3 days sounds longer in my head. And maybe it's just they don't address very well when the day starts for Ariel. It's like that day or something. Like you couldn't at least bumped it up for the beginning of that day. It's like, okay, you get that. All right, whatever. But I don't know. But anyway, while it still felt rushed in the original, and it's obviously rushed here because of that, despite the fact it feels rushed, it does feel like they take their time. One of my favorite scenes in any of these Disney remakes is in this movie, where it's Ariel and Eric, and they change up Eric's character as well a little bit to be a lot more relatable to Ariel and be a lot actually just more interesting. He's one of the more interesting male leads we've had for a change. In fact, I'd actually argue that most of the leads, like the boring princes, generally, Maleficent notwithstanding, are improved upon in their Disney remakes. I mean, granted, we actually have a lot of Disney princes in these things, but no, he's actually an improvement on his Disney, on his animated counterpart, because he actually has dreams, aspirations, and a personality to go along with there, and it matches to a degree Ariel. So there's this scene where she finds this room he has of all the things he's collected through travels. And they're just talking and bonding. And because Ariel can't speak, it's all visual on Haley Bailey's part. And he's just like, starting to get like, he's becoming enamored with this girl who, just is actually interested in the stuff he's interested in. And then the time where they're bonding, they're legitimately cute together. They're there's a scene, it's the scene in, Kiss the Girl, where he's trying to figure out her name. And in the original, Sebastian figures out. But I won't say how because it's really cute. But they do it in a way which seemed very natural, very cute. It was very sweet. I'm like, my friend and I leaned next to each other. I was like, okay, that was really cute as hell. So, I mean, I really dug that. They actually really went well together, the chemistry. All the acting is, I won't say top notch from everyone, but it's because some of it's voice acting too. But if we're talking about voice acting and on-screen acting, everyone is just giving it their all. I think the 3 standouts are Haley Bailey as Ariel. I've heard it said before from some other reviewers who talked about the movie, but I'll say it here: girl's gonna be a superstar. Oh my god! I mean, her acting's good. Her singing is phenomenal, provided she's got the right song. I'll get to that little complaint later. But her voice is gorgeous. She is a beautiful young woman. She's young. I think she's only like 20 something. I can't remember how old she actually. I know she's young. Like she's younger than like Tom Holland and Zendaya young. Let's see, Haley Bailey. Hold on, Haley. Bailey. Haley, not Bieber. Bailey. I might be spelling her first name wrong. There we go. Haley Bailey. She is. Oh, she's 23. Okay, yeah. She's in her 20s. I thought she was in her 20s, but yeah, no, she is a very lovely young woman. She has a great amount of time. She was good in the film. When she had to do the emotional part, she did it right. Her facial acting is really good because half the movie she can't talk, so she's got to just be expressive. But unlike Ariel, who's all in the original, who's all wide-eyed and huh. Um, she's more like, very just inquisitive and just like just taking everything. She just has a fantastic screen presence. They also changed up some things with the character a little bit. Not necessarily with the character herself, per se, but what the character does. For example, the climax at the end with Ursula is the same thing. Someone's driving the boat, but they do something different in that scene than they do in the original. I think to change it up a little bit. I'll also say that they change up some scenes that I didn't agree with, but we'll get to that in a minute. Like I said, 3 standouts. The second standout is Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Now, I heard one of the guys I like to watch, but she sounded like she's just drunk and it's all on like the first take or whatever. I was like, no, I don't get me wrong. It does sound like she's kind of playing it. Someone who maybe just spends all of her time like just wallowing in sorrow and drinking. But at the same time, like that kind of works. Like she seems very just dramatic and operatic. It's what I live for. And her poor unfortunate soul number is not bad at all. I prefer the original, but still, this was a really good interpretation. And they do some creative stuff with their tentacles. They're like bioluminescent. They seem to almost have a mind of her own. So they do some fun effect stuff with her at points. So she is a lot of fun, to be certain. She's clearly having ball. But the third standout, me and my friend both agreed, it was Sebastian. Like seriously, like I can't remember his name. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna look that up right now. The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. Sorry. You dream about going up there, but that is a big mistake. Just look at the world around you. Here on the ocean. Oh, okay. David Diggs. Dude. Okay. One of the things I was gonna have I immediately had an issue with just seeing the trailer and going into the film and trying to deal with was the photorealistic animals. The fact that Flounder just looked like a fish. The fact that Sebastian looked like a very realistic crab. Now this is partly due to the fact that I am very used to the animated movie where Sebastian had a crab body, but he had the weird animated head with the big lip and all that. So I knew they couldn't do that, but at least with Flounder, you could kind of puff him up a little bit and maybe give him a bit more big cartoony eyes. But that's just the reason that's not a big deal for me after coming out of the movie is because once you deal with the character of Sebastian's like that doesn't matter. And he looked like didn't matter. And he's just like talking like, because Sebastian's Jamaican, he's just talking like this and like, I'm an educated crab. I have options. We were just quoting it out of the theater. We were laughing in our seats. Like he's easily some of the best comic relief. And like I said, most of the characters are really good. I like the Prince, Eric, the guy playing Eric. Where is he? Jonah Howard King. I thought he was pretty solid. Javier Bardem as King Triton. I liked him. Did a great effect. He's got this cape, but it's all fish, like little silver fish that make up his cape. I will admit, the scene he appears, I was going, wait, how is that working? But that's logistical stuff. And if you do too much critical thinking on this, you go insane. So I dug all of that. I like Awkwafina. And she works as this version of Scuttle. I will say that. She works as this version of Scuttle. But at the same time, she doesn't need to be in everything. I feel the way about Awkwafina I do about Kevin Hart. I'm not sick of their shtick yet. But it is starting. I think they need to change some stuff up to just keep them fresh in my mind. So yeah, and visually the movie is very nice looking. It's not the best visuals I've seen. I think I got a little spoiled when it came to underwater stuff with Avatar recently. And I liked Avatar 2. I didn't love it. I'd rewatch this before I rewatch Avatar 2 just because of the length. But Avatar 2 looked better underwater. But that's because James Cameron's a madman and an animator. So, there's overall, I really, really liked this film. It isn't perfect, though. Like I said, there are things that don't make sense in general terms. For instance, There's a scene where she goes to talk to Scuttle about what she found. She don't have the fork. It's like, it's a dinglewarp, or I can't remember exactly what it was. And you'd think, well, that scene just takes place on that little island where they talk and all that. No, Scuttle's underwater talking to them. Even by Disney logic, that doesn't make any sense. Because she also says, then there's like, oh, I gotta go up and get some air now. Like, that's not how talking works. Like, sound, sure, you can hear shit underwater, but that's not how talking works. Like, even by Disney standards, that doesn't make sense. And I'm watching the scene like, okay, yeah. Why is it underwater? I get it that they're forbidden to go to the surface, but she was forbidden anyway, and she still did it, so I don't get that. There's also just some weird stuff they add. Like, they add an extra rule in Melissa McCarthy's spell for Ariel about getting the Princess Kiss, that when you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, how's that going to play a factor in? Doesn't change a damn thing. Because when you really think about it, Ariel wasn't really forcing trying to get a kiss off him she wasn't very desperate for that kiss, let's call it, in the original. And here, I guess that's their logic for what's happening here. Scenes are kind of all over the place too. Like, scenes are played in different orders. There's also actually a song, I think, taken out, if I'm not mistaken, where it's the Chef song where he's trying to kill Sebastian. That song is just taken out. The new songs, there are 3 new songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I believe it's the Scuttlebutt. For the first time, and I can't remember the name of the song they give Prince Eric, but it's Prince Eric's got a song. And I'm going to be flat out honest. I heard the soundtrack prior, and I didn't love those songs the first time I heard them. But I'm like, okay, let me see how they play in the theater. And I'll say this, they all play much better on screen. I think the Prince's is the best. I think I can hear a little bit of auto-tune in his voice, but it's minor. And I think it's the best. The first time song is weird because it's actually played as an inner monologue. So you're watching her come into the human world, and she's basically, because she can't talk, she's like thinking all these things. And I'm like, her voice is great, but the style of singing isn't like she. But if you've heard the song, you've heard the song. But it's like, like she does that. I'm like, she's got a lovely voice, but that did not sound. I mean, it didn't like go all over, but I'm like that didn't quite work for me. It wasn't honestly the one I just didn't care for was the Scuttlebutt song. It's fun, but you could take it out and miss nothing. The other two at least give you an idea of Eric and why he is at least similar to Ariel, and the other one is Ariel exploring the new world. So I get those, but the Scuttlebutt song, it's the most Lin-Manuel Miranda song of the new ones too. Yeah, the Scuttlebutt makes no sense. Now, like I said, they did correct some things from the original. Like in this version, they do kind of explain the whole idea of, or not address, but if you think on it, it's addressing the idea of why didn't Ariel just write stuff down on a piece of paper? She signed her damn name so she can write. But instead of signing, it's a blood oath. So she basically takes like one of Ariel's scales from her tail and puts it in there, and that's the contract. So in theory, these guys can't write, which actually would make sense. But then if you do the critical thinking, you go, wait, what? Hold on. So they are talking about fish, the fish that lands in the plate. Like, well, but wait, what do you guys eat? If you're communicating with all these fish, what do merm people eat? Like, what's your diet like? So there's, but that's good. Critical thinking. I will say this: as much as I love the original songs back, I do think all the original soundtrack more or less is better in the versions they did. These are all great versions, but I liked Kiss the Girls version better in the original. I liked Under the Seas version better in the original. I liked what was it? Poor Unfortunate Souls better in the original. But I will say, I think the version they have here, A Part of Your World, is a little bit better than the one in the original. I think it's because it's a bit more almost like operatic. She's just belting it like musical theater. And her voice is beautiful. I will admit, though, one of the nitpicks I've always had with that song is from an Ariel perspective. I'm like, wait, what? Like, like the first time it's like, walking around with those, what do they call them? Oh, feet. Like that. Okay, that makes sense. She doesn't have feet. what is fire and what is it? What's the word burn? And I'm like, hold. There's thermal vents in the ocean. We even see you go by them later. You know, jellyfish stings, they burn. Like, you know what a burn is. Like, fire doesn't exist under the sea unless there's a lava, the volcano erupting. But like, I never understood. Like, no, things can burn under the water too. Hot water exists. You even swim past them later on. So that line never made sense. And from a critical thinking perspective, we see her with like a book she collected from a shipwreck. That paper would have dissolved. God knows how long, especially in salt water. Oh God, that ink would be gone. None of it. But she just turns it like it's nothing. Like and there's also here's where I mean by when I say that the visual effects are good, but like say underwater stuff was better than like Avatar. There's a scene where she's singing the song "Part of Your World" and she's doing a great job, but she lies down on this sand floor and you can see the sand sticking to her hand. If you're underwater, that wouldn't happen. So I don't know. Yeah, it never fully looks like they're kind of underwater at points. Like again, I think it's all with the hair. Like their hair doesn't always look wet. Particularly Halle Berry's. It looks like it's in the water, but it doesn't look wet per se. Also, aesthetic nitpick of Ariel. Oh yeah, I'm going to go with that. Not red enough for me. Her hair's not red enough for me. Yeah. Look, screw all the people who were like giving her other cases like, you know, in this fictional mermaid should be white. Yeah, I'm not going to see that unless they stop blackwashing this or, you know, stop attacking white people. Go F yourself. Seriously. I will admit, now I'll be completely honest here. When I heard Halle Bailey was cast out, so I'm like, oh, cool, they're going to, okay, she's black. Okay, that's different. And I saw him, like, my mind actually had to stop and process for a second. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, this is her new norm. And you know what I likened it to? It's like when you're, like, you had a long-time friend who changes their hair color after decades of knowing them. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's not what you were used to, and you just need a moment to just adjust your brain. But what you do, you're like, okay, this is the new norm. And she killed it as Ariel. But I will admit, I don't think of a white girl when I think of Ariel. I think of fire engine redhead when I think of Ariel. So I'm like, I don't know. I mean, look, I get that's the natural, like, redhead color, but we are in a fictional world of mermaids, so you probably could have gone at least a bit more red. I don't know. That's my one quibble about the appearance. But no, I mean, she looks great otherwise. I will say this though, when her tail looked fine underwater, but when she's like on a rock on the surface, it did look like just fake plastic. I don't know. That's again nitpicking. Overall, like I said, most of the problems, if any, I have with this are the problems I carry over from the original. There's nothing really wrong with this, except for one or two scenes that just didn't add up, like the scuttle being underwater scene talking. That made no sense. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. Like, comment, share, subscribe. What did you think of The Little Mermaid? Have you seen it yet? What were your thoughts? I should note that, let me also know what you thought about me starting with a clip. I've got to try to get my timing down a bit better with those. Hopefully I don't get flagged for anything. Probably won't. Because I was talking over it too. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you folks next time.